When you look at heart disease in the United States or cardiovascular issues, they're the number one killer in the U.S. Every 34 seconds, somebody dies from a cardiovascular accident or a cardiovascular incident. That's a problem. And it's not only affecting guys, but it's also affecting females as well, which is a huge problem. And I think the conversation is stemming around, all right, people are dying. How do we treat the symptoms? But nobody's talking about how do we attack the cause of these symptoms. Because if you think about high blood pressure, high cholesterol, these are not the problem. These are byproducts of a lifestyle problem, right? Of a lifestyle decision that you're making. And when it comes to cardiovascular issues, most of these things can be prevented through exercise, diet, stress reduction, sleep. So these are things that we can get better. The question is, our medical doctors, are they having these conversations with their patients? Number one. And number two, if these conversations ever happen, is the patient receptive and do they want to do something about it? Because if I go to a doctor right now and my doctor says, yeah, you have high cholesterol, go ahead and take this statin drug, and then I go home and I just do it without making a lifestyle change, that's a big issue, right? We're just masking the problem. And I've looked at the research. Statins are not very good. They're not very healthy. They're intended to fix a problem, but they're not fixing it.
Like a Band-Aid.
It's just a Band-Aid.
Yeah, the stats behind it aren't as great. If you actually look into them, it's the stats aren't super. Ultimately, it's like you're saying, there's better ways.
Yeah.
And the medical field right now focuses on this acute care. This is where you are today. This is the drug that's going to fix it. There's very little option. In fact, they almost take your options away. And that's kind of where I think we need to get back to. When you go to the doctor, you have such a condition. I think if you are not going to make lifestyle changes and diet changes, that I need you on a statin drug. If you're going to make those changes, this is what they look like. And let the patient. But right now what's happening is that doctors have decided already that you're not going to put forth the efforts to change your diet, to change your lifestyle and start exercising. And they're making these choices for you and saying your option is the statin drug. And that's where the problem comes, because one, exercise, even increasing the omega-3s that you introduce into your diet, will help bring your cholesterol problems down and heart issues down. So there's a number of things that we can do beneficial. On the lower end of statin drugs, you have like your lisinopril.
Is that the medication?
Or the medication, yeah. Or,
Lipitor?
Lipitor, that's it, I'm sorry. The Lipitor, which red rice yeast is just as effective, and there's science and research to show for this. So there are natural supplements that will do the same thing.
So really, it sounds like a societal problem more than
it's again profit over people. If you look at Lipitor or these medications provided by Big Pharma, they do make billions and billions of dollars. And there was a study they did in 1998. They did a prevention. They took 6,000 people. Half of them, they gave them a statin drug, and half of them, they gave them a placebo. And they wanted to see how effective were these statin drugs. And there's a concept that it's very important. It's called number needed to treat. Have you guys heard about this term before? So number needed to treat is how many people need to take this drug every single day for the next 5 years in order to prevent one cardiovascular incident, right? Or one cardiovascular death. So, for example, in that study in 1998, they found that statin drugs, a certain statin drug, was 1.5% more effective than the placebo. And the number needed to treat was 63, which meant that 63 people needed to take the medication every single day for 5 years in a row in order to prevent one cardiovascular incident.
That doesn't sound promising.
That is not very good, right? And that's a lot. That's over 100,000. I think it's over 100,000 pills in order to prevent one cardiovascular incident.
That's a lot of money.
And that's where the problem
is. Tell us your thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, like, listening to you guys is getting a little complicated and all numbery. But the question also, I get it. Like, there's definitely like a big issue with doctors and pharmaceuticals. But as a society, are we asking the right questions to our doctors? You know, because if someone comes up to me and tells me, hey, you have to take this medication for X amount of days, or no, you have to take this medication. I feel like the first question I'm going to ask is like, great, what is this for?
Yeah.
This is for this. Perfect. What can I do so I don't have to be taking this medication? Or is there like an alternative? Because one thing is the doctor can suggest something, but if we don't ask them, we also have to take ownership of in control of our health. It's our health at the end of the day.
Sure.
So, I mean, yes, doctors and all that, I'm sure they have the right intentions, but we also have to put our effort to, I don't know.
Are we misplacing our power, like our responsibility to them? Have we put Western medicine as hey, they're the authority, when really we should be our own health advocate?
That's where I want to get at.
Yeah, I really feel that way.
Yeah, and people are taking these drugs, these medications, as an alternative to making a lifestyle change. And like we always say, right, there's three things that ultimately create the picture of health, or our health equation, if we're going to be healthy or sick. One is our genetics. Number two is our lifestyle. Number three is our environment. We cannot obviously control our genetics to most extent. We cannot control our environment unless we live in a bubble. So the only thing we have control over is our lifestyle, the decisions that we make. And unfortunately, a lot of these people with cardiovascular disease, which is caused by poor lifestyle choices, is they're starting to blame their family members, right? It runs in my genes because my dad had high cholesterol. I'm going to have it as well. My dad died at 45 from a heart attack. Therefore, I'm going to die at 45. Of course you will if you do the same lifestyle choices that they made as well.
Let's talk about that. Heart disease, is it genetic or is it environmental, or what you put in, like your responsibility, or is it genetics? What do you all think?
I've seen articles that say that only 10 to 15% of diseases are actually genetic. The rest are usually environmental or lifestyle related, which means that, you know, like people that say, I have diabetes because it runs in the family, when in reality, nobody runs in their family. Yeah. Right?
I love that
It's the
joke.
same concept. Right?
Well, and did heart disease used to be a thing?
It's
And if it was genetic, then why didn't it?
Exactly, right?
Right.
And now it's costing us a lot of money. I mean, over the next, I think it's, there was let me see the article. New York Post, 61% of U.S. adults will have a form of cardiovascular disease by 2050.
Wow.
Price tag, $1.8 trillion.
Trillion with a T?
Trillion, yes. That's a lot of money, right? So is it, because there's a concept called epigenetics. You guys know about, right? You can turn on or off certain genes, but your lifestyle choices will technically turn on those switches. If you have the gene for, let's say, a cardiovascular problem, and you eat and you smoke every day, you're probably going to turn on that gene and you're going to develop it. But you still have some control.
If you think about it, as a child, your parents have a way of the foods that they give you. If they push exercise and sports over allowing you to sit around, then you grow up, you have kids, and you raise them with the same information and ways that you were raised. So you're feeding them the same foods you ate that your parents fed you, and you're, kind of giving them the same freedoms maybe to do or not do something. And ultimately, I think those choices come from patterning, bad choice patterning over generations, more so than inevitability and genetics. Because if you take a household and you ask that same person, but then you're like, you got any family members? And they're like, yeah, there's my brother, and your brother's super slim, and where did his genetics go?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
It's crazy. Our we own a gym, and the other owner, our other partner, she's super fit. You'd be like, holy cow, she's like one of the most fit people ever, right? Her brother is completely the opposite. What happened?
Come here.
Exactly, and that's why I say it's more, I feel like, patterning. If you grew up in a household that was heavy pasta and they ate a lot of steaks,
Your
and
mic.
burgers, and things like that, and then you're growing up and that's your norm,
Yeah.
it's not surprising that you're now eating it as an adult and you have kids and you're serving it to them, and then they do it and it just becomes a vicious pattern until someone makes the change. Does that mean that we can't? No. We need to put forth the energy into educating ourselves and empowering ourselves to make.
And that's a big thing. Have you ever been to Walmart at night and you see these people that are very unhealthy?
It's scary.
And they just have stacks and stacks of unhealthy food.
Carts full, yeah.
Carts full, and then their kids are eating the same stuff. Like you said, I think the parents, how you grow up makes a big difference.